Hey there, good people, and welcome back to the DNP podcast. I'm your host, Debo Agbede, and as you're watching this, tonight sees the start of the NFL season. We made it, people. Football is back. Can't wait for the start of the NFL season. Week 1 is upon us, and yeah, just brilliant stuff. In this episode, we'll discuss the most shocking trade in the NFL in recent years, which is Micah Parsons heading to the Green Bay Packers. I'll say who I think is winning this year's Super Bowl and who's going to win each award given out of the NFL honors this year. And every week during the season, I'll give picks for 6 games over the weekend against the spread in our Pick 6. This pod is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so follow on those platforms and give an honest rating. Like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube so you can stay up to date with each upload. Now, a trade that sent shockwaves throughout the league happened last week when Dallas Cowboys sent star pass rusher Micah Parsons packing to Green Bay for 2 first-round picks and a defensive tackle in Kenny Clark to shore up their interior defensive line. So my thoughts on this personally, okay, here's what I say. The concept of trading Micah Parsons isn't something I'm really opposed to. When you look at the fact that the Cowboys have spent $60 million a year on Dak Prescott, like that's someone who you kind of, that's the most expensive player in the league. Okay, so that's someone that that's a lot of cap space right there. Then you look at $34 million a year on CD Lamb. So if you're going to add what his contract was, $47 million a year, you can't have that much money out of your cap space, like almost half of your cap space, committed to 3 guys in a 53-man roster. Like there needs to be a better split of the resources. And to be fair to Jerry Jones, he did mention that in that press conference he did after the trade became official, that we need to spread the wealth around a little bit. Like obviously this offseason they sorted Jake Ferguson's contract, Deron Bland was done in the past couple of days. So that as a concept, trading Micah Parsons as a concept is not something that I am very much against. As great as he is, as sad as it would be for the Dallas fan base to have Luka Doncic for the Mavericks get traded in early this year, and now Micah gone, it's like, oh, come on. Like, these are players in their prime that you want to keep around, but in this case, given the situation they put themselves in, like, in my opinion, I think if you have, let's say, you got to pay Dak, got to pay CD, got to pay Micah, I would probably have paid Micah Parsons first, if I'm being honest, because getting to the passer in this league, in this passing league that we've got now, is probably the most important thing you need to do on defense with respect to the other areas of the field. Like you get good receivers in deeper rounds of the draft, and obviously quarterback's very important. So the fact that they already paid CD Lamb, like that's done now. You kind of have to move on from considering where they are going into this off season. But if I'm being honest, this probably was a mistake made like before the start of last season even. But again, in the situation they're in now, trading Micah Parsons isn't a bad thing because you need to divvy up the resources a bit better. What I do have an issue with, however, is how this was handled and how this was executed, because realistically I think the timing's all off. Like, making this sort of move 7 days before a season, for one, sends a pretty tough message to the locker room in the sense of, oh, so are we not really trying to win, or are we not really trying to have our best players forward? Like, you saw the reactions of CD and Trevon Diggs online in terms of, oh no, like this is our guy. Even Trevon Diggs especially was very supportive of Micah. You see that clip where he's almost listing the edge rushers that were paid over the off-season and saying, yeah, he got this money, Myles Garrett got this money, Max Crosby, Nick, like, all these guys have been sorted and paid. Even Trey Hendrickson's deal eventually got sorted, but Micah Parsons' deal, like we're 7 days before a season here. We're getting ready to go on the road to face the reigning Super Bowl champions on their ring night. They're obviously going to be on a high, ready to vanquish a division rival, which, it's a tough one. You can imagine for a locker room to take. It's like, okay, so, up on high, they're not really, they're almost punting the year, it seems. And one way to not punt on a year, essentially, and kind of go into an off-season and a training camp program with a clear understanding of trying to win in mind, is if they had done this before the draft in April, where you could even fashion a bidding war going on. Because at this point in the season, all the teams have their rosters sorted. All the teams have basically looked at what they've got and done their depth charts, and you're not going to have what they could have had, which is the Bills, who had we're looking at pass rusher this summer, and we're like, okay, if we can get Micah Parsons, let's give 3 first-round picks instead of the 2 they got, and maybe a player if they're deeming it so, because that's what it would take. And Atlanta, who went into the drafts and took the 2 first-round pass rushers, they could have easily just used all those resources to get those 2 and said, hey, Dallas, Micah, please. Like, you could have all, like, obviously the Packers, who eventually did make the deal, but instead of just, I'm not sure how, many suitors actually inquired about the Micah Parsons. May have saw a report that the Panthers were looking at it, but then again, it's a case of, if you have a bidding war, I can assure you they get more than 2 first-round picks and I believe 30-year-old DT and Kevin Clark. Like, they could get 3 first-round picks. They get a first-round pick in this past draft that they could use this year to obviously give them the best chance of winning with your $60 million a year quarterback, and actually give it a proper good go. Because it seems like the way they've done it here, it's like, we're not really sure. We don't really think this year is going to be good enough for us, regardless of whether we pay Micah or not. So let's just get what we can and look forward, which I'm sure for a locker room perspective just isn't ideal. And even in Jerry Jones' press conference, when he's saying, "Oh well, we needed to rush the passer. We needed to stop the run," which is true. And Micah Parsons, as an edge rusher, isn't great at doing that. But now you've given yourself another question, which is probably even more important question, which is, how are we going to rush the passer? Are we going to, is Dante Fowler, who we signed for free agency, going to lead the charge for us? Is our second round pick Donovan Ezraku going to step in and, really give us, similar to what Micah Parsons gave you? I don't believe so. I don't believe that's something you're going to get, at least not in year 1, which is obviously, the year coming up. And if you're essentially saying, okay, this season we're just going to look forward to what's ahead, then that's not really sending a great message to the locker room, which obviously is, it's not a long career in the NFL. So if you're telling people that, okay, one season is basically going to be a lost one, which obviously in their minds it won't be, like their minds, they're going to give it their best no matter what. It's not that they're not going to say it's a lost season, but they're going to say you're not giving us the best chance to win. And if, from, the below, from the workmen, if you're looking at your bosses, your CEOs or whatever, and they're telling you, we're not really sure, we don't really want to, give it our best foot forward to give you the best chance to do your job effectively, you're not gonna, there's not gonna be a good vibe around it. Despite the fact that there were reports, or the recent article from ESPN saying that people in the Cowboys organization weren't too fond of Micah Parsons, and he wasn't exactly the most popular. But I think that's obviously you're getting bashed in publicly for something, you're obviously going to come out and defend yourselves almost and say, okay, this is actually why we've done it. Like, he's not working hard in the training room, or he's not he's doing his podcast, and a lot of people like, I don't want him to talk about that on the podcast. I want him to, focus on football and do this, that. It's like, in every workplace, you're gonna there are not say cliques, but there are people you don't fancy that much, or you don't, but you still do your job. Or you respect the fact that they are, especially in Mike Parsons' case, a top end in their craft. So you you accept the bad of the good, because the good is helping you do your job a lot better. So sure, there may have been some people who weren't that fond of Micah, but then again, it's like, mate, he gives us a great chance to win the Super Bowl because he's got 52.5 sacks in his first 4 seasons and is only looking to get better. So I think that's none the wiser, despite that, regardless. And another thing that I haven't even mentioned, another thing is that you've sent him to the Packers. You've sent him to a conference rival, which, obviously there's the history of the past couple of years where the Packers seemingly are the team that, kills a Cowboys playoff run. You saw that a couple of years ago where the youngest team in playoff history went into AT&T Stadium and completely wiped the floor with them. Absolutely mollywopped him. And you're like, oof. Hold on a minute, this is this isn't great. And then you got even the 2016 season where you've got Dak and Zeke in their rookie years, and they're the one seed, and they're, oh yeah, this is gonna be our year. And then Aaron Rodgers to Jared Cook, bang, there we go. So that's another thing where it's like, oh, the Packers really, like Green Bay, did it have to be them? And that's obviously something that can be another hurtful point for a Cowboys fan looking at it. It's like, damn, we're gonna have to see him in that green and gold of Green Bay, and he's gonna continue to get those sacks. So he's 26 years old, so it's not like they've sent some over the hill. Not to say that there's a particular age that of pass rushers seem to be almost eternal. I mean, Von Miller's still knocking about. Not that he's great, but he's still going to be an effective player for the Commanders this season. But nonetheless, the fact that you sent in his prime pass rusher to a famed rival is not great. And another thing about this specific point of the fact that he's going to the Green Bay Packers is the fact that he's 26. So let's say those 2 first-round picks they've got in this draft hit. Okay, so great. The Cowboys, they're a contender again. They're going to NFC Championship games or going to divisional rounds. They're making playoff runs. Cool. By the time they get to that point, you're still going to have a Micah Parsons who is pretty effective for a rival. So even when you get to the point where you're contending at the highest level again, you've now given who could be your biggest enemy in that case their biggest piece of the puzzle, or what they at least believe is the final piece of the puzzle to go against you and take you down. So I just think, all in all, the execution of trading Micah is quite a own goal, I'd say, for the Dallas Cowboys, and it's definitely going to be something that we'll obviously see how it goes. We'll look at the next 2 years, how Kenny Clark even does this season for them, despite obviously my opinion on them. Like, it's not a done deal whether this is a win or a loss for either side, because even then it's a very big commitment from the Green Bay Packers, and you'd probably say that, okay, it's win now, like full on win now. Like, you've given $47 million to Micah Parsons a year, you've given Jordan Love a pretty hefty fee off of one good season, and he didn't really kick on last season, so you're hoping this year he can really kick on and be that consistent performer for you. But yeah, all in all, I think the Cowboys kind of messed up the execution, despite having, in my opinion, the right idea in mind of actually trading Micah Parsons away. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, this goes out on Thursday, so you'll see tonight whether the Cowboys can put up a decent fight over the Eagles. But I think, in my opinion, in the long run, this will end up blowing up in Jerry Jones and the Cowboys' face. But it's a we'll see. But yeah, I'm not too fond of what they've managed to do here. Alright, time for my award picks. So obviously you want to get these in before the season starts, so no one can claim, oh, you just saw week 1 and that's why you're going for this guy to win MVP and this guy to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Oh, you're such a front runner. No, okay, as I'm recording this, no games have happened. As you listen to this, some games may have happened depending on when you listen to this, but regardless, these are my picks for each award that's going to be given out. The NFL one is at the end of the season. So come back to me when I've gone 7 for 7 or however many awards there are. I actually haven't done the count, but I've done it for everyone. So first up, Offensive Rookie of the Year. I've gone for Ashton Jeanty of the Las Vegas Raiders. Oh, Freudian slip there. But obviously I think he's going to be kind of a big focal point of the Raiders offense this season, and he's going to have an impressive stat line. We saw what he was able to do at Boise State, and I think running back is the easiest position to translate over to the pros. So Ashton Jeanty, like, we've seen the contact balance, we've seen the vision he's got. He's going to make a big difference for this Raiders offense this season, and he's going to have the stat line. He's going to be great for your fantasy if you've got him, so well done. I just did a dynasty draft yesterday. I didn't manage to get him, but that's fine. I got, who did I even get first pick? Oh yeah, I got Bijan. Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you, my guy. You see Lord Julio watching over me. Yeah, make sure of that. I think it's going to be a 2-horse race, and I think there are some people who may pick Cam Ward. Obviously, the past 2 years have seen quarterbacks win that award, but those obviously are two quarterbacks that have made playoff runs, and I don't think the Titans are going to be good enough to give Cam Ward the platform to win this award. So I think Ashton Jeanty takes a nod on that one. Oh, also for each of these awards, I'm going to give a dark horse candidate that I think could sneak up on people. And for this Offensive Rookie of the Year, I've gone Tyler Warren of the Colts. I think he's someone who's going to get a big amount of targets for the Indianapolis Colts there, and he's one that can sneak up on people and get a Brock Bowers level. Maybe not to that level, but obviously Brock Bowers was someone who broke the record for tight end rookie yards, and Tyler Warren, whether he breaks it or not, he's going to get pretty close, I do believe. So that's my dark horse for this award. Defensive Rookie of the Year. No, pardon, I was wait for the Defensive Player of the Year in a bit. Abdul Carter for this one of the Giants. I think he's I'm going to put the marker down here. Staying healthy, he gets double-digit sacks because he's someone who really has got the capabilities to do so. And then another number 11 from Penn State, as I mentioned earlier, obviously Micah Parsons being the other one. They have had a really good record of producing pass rushes, at least in the past couple of years, and I think Abdul Carter is going to be the next edition of that. I think that Giants defense as well is going to be really serious and really something to deal with. It's going to be in the top 10, and I think out of all the awards, I think Abdul Carter's one who has the best chance to at least win his category, and he'll have a lot of shine in that pass rush as opposed to a Brian Burns and a Kayvon Thibodeau, who are also really good players. But I think Abdul Carter, at least as the rookie, as someone coming in, will get a lot of that shine and get that Defensive Rookie of the Year pub. My dark horse for this might seem a little homerish, but James Pierce Jr., seeing him preseason, see all the reports coming out of training camp from the Atlanta Falcons that he is someone who has really shone and has really made a name for himself, at least in terms of getting past the tackle and getting to the quarterback. And wow, like I think he's out of the two Falcons rookies, he's the more ready-made one to make an instant impact. And I think he's another one, especially considering the pass rush issues that the Falcons have had in previous years. If James Pierce Jr. can come in and be a real big impact on it to make a Falcons pass rush passable and, Falcons pass rush that is effective in games, that is one where he can really rise up the ranks and really, put a real stake for the Defensive Rookie of the Year award. So he'd be my dark horse for this one. Offensive Player of the Year, I've gone Jamar Chase. This is a pretty simple one in terms of someone who was a Triple Crown winner last year, led the league in receptions, receiving touchdowns and receiving yards, and I don't really see any reason that's going to slow down. I think you've obviously got all the pieces there in place with Jamar Chase, obviously Jamar Chase, but T. Higgins and Joe Burrow, that he's going to get the ball, he's going to get his numbers, he's going to get his targets, he's just going to be in and around there. And obviously last year we saw Saquon win it, and he did something that, history making in a 2,000-yard season that hasn't happened a lot in the years gone by, but I don't know if he can maintain that sort of level 2 years on a bounce. When you look at Jamar Chase, I think he is someone who is obviously younger, less on like taxing on the body, I'd say, than the running back position. So it's fair to assume that he is going to be able to, have another, maybe not triple crown, but obviously be very high in the rankings for each of those stats. So the Jamar Chase for my Offensive Player of the Year. Dark horse, Brian Thomas Jr. for the Jaguars. I think again it's one where it is obviously a rank outsider for it, but also someone who can have a very high ranking in all the receiver statistics. He was top 5 in receiving yards last year, I believe, and that he's obviously only going to get better. You'll have Trevor Lawrence, hopefully, knock on wood, for a whole season, so you'll have the quarterback that will be able to get you the ball. Not sure if Travis Hunter is going to exactly take targets away, considering he's probably going to do shifts on the defensive end as well, so he is still going to be the focal point of the offense. And for a Jaguars team that I see in my predictions put to win the AFC South, is a player that will be a very big part of that and could see his stats rise. So obviously dark horse candidate, but I'm going to stake my claim to that Brian Thomas Jr. will have a big season and will make a big impact for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Defensive Player of the Year, obviously mentioned him earlier, Micah Parsons. I think obviously with these awards, they obviously tend to be quite storyline based and quite in the media, like, this would be great if after all that's gone through, all that's happened, that he ends up bringing this award. And obviously Micah Parsons has been a big story out of late and will continue to be a big story throughout the season. So he's someone who can easily maintain and continue his sack rates that he's had in recent years. And again, for a Packers team that is going to be competing at the high level, up in and around the playoff spots and in and around the divisional championship game, all that sort of stuff, that Micah Parsons is going to be someone who's a talking point and is going to be high in the sack statistics over the course of the year. So I think Micah Parsons is going to get that acclaim of being the Defensive Player of the Year. And then dark horse, Dexter Lawrence. Again, my earlier point of the Giants' defense is going to be a defense that has a lot of names and is going to keep the Giants in a lot of games. And if the Giants miraculously, however, make a playoff run, or the Giants are a much more competitive outfit, because in the past 2 years they've almost been a laughingstock, or they just have been a laughingstock, if I'm going to be blunt. If the Giants are able to maintain some sort of competitiveness and maybe stay in the playoff race, the wild card race, going into the end of the year, that Dexter Lawrence is a name that comes up and is like, okay, that's a very important cog of this Giants defensive machine. So let's give him the nod for Defensive Player of the Year. So there's my pick for that. Protector of the Year. This is a new one. They've given offensive linemen an accolade now, which obviously is a great thing for them. So my pick for that this year is going to be Penei Sewell of the Detroit Lions. Obviously the Lions have lost a fair amount of their or at least their interior. They lost Zeitler to free agency. They lost Frank Ragnow to retirement. So if the Lions do maintain the levels that they've had on the offensive line, which I do believe they will, it's going to be in large part to Penei Sewell on that right tackle position. And also if the Lions continue their trick play ways and Penei Sewell lined up as a tight end almost and maybe gets a catch, maybe even a touchdown or whatever at some point, he's going to be a name that is going to be will rank high in the conversation for this award. So Penei Sewell is my pick for this. I don't really have a dark horse for this. It's kind of a tough one because I feel like whatever name I put up, whether it be like a Lane Johnson or Jordan Mailata, it's not really a dark horse because all the offensive linemen are pretty, all the good ones at least are pretty well known. Don't really seem like, okay, this is one that can come up late. Like, we'll see. You can't really predict someone to rise up the ranks. You just have your solid ones that you just know, okay, these are the premier ones in the position. I've got a similar one. I've got a similar sort of feeling towards this next award, so I won't have a dark horse for it. But comeback player of the year, I've got Aiden Hutchinson. Last year was a really tough year for, I guess, him personally as well, because it was a pretty bad injury for Aiden Hutchinson in that game against the Cowboys, Lions Cowboys. So I think if he's able to play a big role for this team, again, a Lions team that will be up there in the playoff picture in the NFC. So Aiden Hutchinson's someone who's obviously a big part of what they do. He's a big part of them being able to be a competitive team and getting to the pass rusher, which is, again, as I said earlier, a very important thing for players to be able to do. So Aiden Hutchinson coming back from that sort of sickening leg injury and playing a part and playing a big part, a big role in what the Lions do, is definitely my pick for comeback player of the year. And I think that's almost a gimme. I don't think there's going to be many other candidates, maybe a Dak Prescott because he's had the hamstring injury. But yeah, in terms of comeback player of the year, it seems like it should be a slam dunk for Aiden Hutchinson. And the last award, MVP, I've gone to go for Lamar Jackson. He should have won it last year, in my personal opinion. I think with the statistics he was able to put up, like 4,000 yards, like leading in touchdowns, barely any interceptions, which is not something you could really say about Lamar Jackson in terms of him being up there as a passer, not just as a runner. And as a runner, he's pretty damn good. So he's someone who I believe will just continue to be at that premier level and continue to play at such high level and put the numbers up for a Ravens team who I believe are going to be the one seed in the AFC. So there's another one where I just think he's going to get the nod and the acclaim for being that guy for the Ravens and being the most valuable, because, you know, if Derrick Henry is able to do what he does because Lamar's there in terms of the read option game, and the Ravens don't exactly have star receivers, so if Lamar's able to perform to the level I expect him to perform at, I think he's going to get to the nod for MVP. And so my dark horse for this one, it's pretty Detroit heavy here. It's Jared Goff as the dark horse for MVP, because the Lions are obviously a team that has lost a fair amount in the offseason. They lost Ben Johnson, they lost defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. So they're a team that, if they're able to maintain the level, the players on the field will get a lot more acclaim, especially Jared Goff, who is someone who's, I don't want to say maligned, or I don't want to, but it seems like he gets a bit underrated because he's made a Super Bowl in his career. He's obviously been really close with the Lions in the past couple of years, but it's still like, Jared Goff almost holds you back from being able to win the big one. And especially considering that performance he had in the Commanders game in the playoffs last year. It's like, Jared Goff, not really sure, but if he has another season where he's able to, take the Lions there and thereabout near the 1 seed, or there and thereabout being very high in the playoff rankings, I think he's someone who will get a fair amount of acclaim and a fair amount of votes and, pub for the MVP award. So I think that's a dark horse to keep an eye on for this award. And finally, my Super Bowl matchup. Who do I think is going to face each other? It's the Eagles in the NFC and the Ravens in the AFC. So obviously I said they're going to be the 1 seed. I do believe this is the year that Baltimore's able to get over the hump, and I think the Eagles are a team that's maintained their superiority in their division and in the conference in a large part. So that's my Super Bowl matchup. Winner, I have the Baltimore Ravens winning the Super Bowl this year. As I've mentioned, Lamar, the team, the defense, Derrick Henry, it's ranked really high in terms of rosters, and I think it's a team that should have won that Baltimore game. That Buffalo game last year, if not for that little moment of Mark Andrews dropping the ball on a 2-point conversion. I think they would have kicked on to win that one. But nonetheless, this year I do believe is the Ravens' year. So those are my awards and Super Bowl pick for this year. Okay, time for the pick six. So obviously it's the first edition. Every week during the NFL season, I'm going to choose 6 games over the weekend, look at the spread lines and see which way I would go for each of them. So let's not waste any time. Let's just get into it. Number 1, Giants +6 at Commanders. Now this is obviously a divisional matchup, so those on most of the time tend to be closer, definitely closer than touchdown spread. I think I've mentioned the point many a time that the Giants defense, I really fancy them to keep the Giants in a lot of games this year, and defense travels. So the way I see it, you have obviously Dex Lawrence in the interior, Abdul, Caden Thibodeau, Brian Burns on the edge, like Javon Holland in that back end. I just think the Giants defense is going to show up, and they're going to keep the Giants Giants close to the Commanders, to keep this one tight, keep this one a bit nervy for the Commanders. I do still believe they come out on top, because at least they've secured Terry McLaurin, and they've obviously got Daniels, who honestly is a tier 1 quarterback. A lot of people, if you saw the first episode. So yes, I do believe that the Commanders still come out on top of this, but +6 just seems a bit wide, just seems a bit too much. So I do think the Giants keep this one close. Number 2, Buccaneers at Falcons. I'll pick the Falcons +2.5. And yes, I know, homery, I am a Falcons fan, but come on. The Falcons swept the Buccaneers last year, and this is a Buccaneers team that definitely won't have Chris Godwin, might not have Tristan Wirfs on the offensive on the left tackle. So this is obviously a game that's going to be a shootout. I do believe both offenses are going to look good in this one. I do see the Falcons coming out on top, so I'll say that the +2.5 does seem a bit wild. That they're the underdogs in this game at home, and again, divisional matchup. These teams are very familiar with each other. It'll be a big one that both teams will see as a must-win. I think more on the Falcons side because it's the home one, so they're going to want to obviously maintain home field advantage and maintain that advantage in the divisional record against the other team that they're going to be going up against for the NFC South crown. So I'll say that the Falcons are going to come out on top in this one and at least cover that 2.5 point underdog spread. Now this third one, Broncos -8 at home to the Titans. I do think Cam Ward will have a good year. He'll be decent, but away to the Broncos as a opening week, it just seems like a bit of a tough draw to go up against for the first defense you see. Obviously, Vance Joseph was very successful with the guys he had at his disposal. Obviously, PS2, the reigning defensive player of the year, so there's that. There's obviously Nick Benito on the edge, Zach Allen. Just you go through the list of Broncos defenders and you say, yeah, they're going to make this one difficult for a Titans team, which obviously is bedding in a new rookie quarterback, is only really got one offensive weapon that is of note in Calvin Ridley. I guess you'd say Tony Pollard, but I don't think they're going to be able to create much on the offensive end that's going to really challenge the Broncos, or at least maintain being 8 points within the score. So I do think the Broncos win this one by double digits at the least, and yeah, they cover the 8-point spread. Fourth one, this one's a pick'em, but I'll lean towards the home team. It's Colts -1 against the Dolphins. Again, the home team, they've got the offensive weapons that can hurt the Dolphins, at least in this case. Don't think the Dolphins defense is going to be very impressive. So this line's basically just who do you think will win, and I see the Colts as having, maybe Tyler Warren to make an impact for Daniel Jones. He'll make a use of his tight end Jonathan Taylor as well to have a decent one there. So I'll go Colts on this one. I think they're the team that's able to able to come out from this fixture with the win. And the final one, 5, the Texans +3 away to the Rams. Obviously, it's been a very interesting off-season in this later period for the Rams, especially when it comes to Matthew Stafford. We're not really sure, what level he's at physically. He is going to start on Sunday, so that's not really a debate, but like how much practice has he been able to do? And when you've got pass rushers in Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., and obviously they've got Jalen Peter, Derek Stingley, CJ Gardner-Johnson now in the back end. Like, it's a tough defense to come up against for almost your first action since that Eagles loss in the playoffs last year. So I'm not really sure how well the Rams offense is going to perform this weekend against a quite staunch Texans defense. So even though they're at home, again, defense travels, as I mentioned in the Giants pick, I think the Texans keep this one close, and I'll probably say come out with the win. In all honesty, I do see the Rams as NFC West champions, but I just think maybe it's like, as they do in years, it's more of a slow burner and they pick up late into the year. And I just think, maybe the Texans, at least in first week, start out 1-0 and for sure cover that +3 spread. So, there it is. There's episode 4 of the DNP podcast. Thank you for listening. Obviously, if you're on the YouTube, like and subscribe. Put on your post notifications to keep up to date with every upload and get the notification that, hey, DNP podcast uploads, get to watch. And if you're on Spotify, give us a 5-star rating. Apple Podcasts as well, same thing. And I'll see you next week. Enjoy the weekend, people. Football is back. Woo woo!